Out with the old and in with the new Generals Handbook.
Spiky bits.
What's up, Hobby Maniacs? Baer with you again today, checking out the brand new Generals Handbook 2017. Like I said, this one is out of here. Now it's all about this bad boy right here. Now, the new one is $35. It is literally about the same exact size as the old one right here that was $25. So I don't know why there's a price difference, but there is about $10. But other than that, it's got a lot more content in it for sure. I mean, this was a little bit filler, which you can see right here when you open this up, that there was quite a bit of filler in here. Plus, remember too, that they had the Path to Glory stuff in here, right? So the Path to Glory stuff was actually taken out of this General's Handbook for 2017, made into its own supplement. So this is out of here, and there's more content in here, but again, for what you got right here for $25 is now roughly $50. Actually, it's $60 to be quite honest. But other than that, pricing aside, if you want to keep playing Age of Sigmar, well, you need the General's Handbook 2017, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever, however you want to look at it. Now, there is a slew of other accessories that came out this week too. You got the open war cards, which are a really interesting take on. They're kind of like the Age of Sigmar version, sort of like Maelstrom from 40K, I guess. Or you can do it as a straight tournament kind of format, which we're going to show you when we kind of preview the front of the book here, but we're really going to dive into the stuff at the back of the book. And then also, what is this? 4 brand new War Scroll card packs. And as we saw in the past, these are the larger format ones. Now, all of these are $15. All of them have various amounts of actual War Scrolls in them. You can see right here that the one with the most is Sylvaneth, which has 12. But like the Beast Claw Raiders actually have only 10 in here. And it is the large format with all that dead space at the bottom. But then they also have, you know, some of the allegiance abilities and the command stuff and the things and all of the things. So $15, it's a little bit less content than what we saw with the Khorne ones and the Stormcast ones that came out earlier in the year. Open war cards as well are a great accessory to the rules that are in this book as well. But all that aside, great accessories, but the main showcase item for this week is 2017 General's Handbook. Now, there is a ton of new content in here, like I said, for the game that's gonna give you, man, I don't even know where to begin. Okay, so you've got open play stuff in here, which was the open war cards, which we're going to dive into that. Narrative play, we're not going to really touch on that stuff. Match play is kind of where the meat and potatoes of this review is going to be. Now, this is going to be a little between a first look review and a full-on tips and tactics, because I'm not sure if we're going to have time to circle back and do an actual tips and tactics on this, so I want to try to cover as much new stuff and much important stuff as we can in this book and let you guys get it and dive into it, or make the decision whether you're going to get it and dive into it, or kind of know what to look for your faction in here before you pick up the book, kind of type deal, because there hasn't been a whole lot of information out there leading up to this release. So I'm really hopeful that we can get a lot of good information out of this first look review today for everybody out there. Forces of the Realms is going to be all of the allegiance abilities and things like that. Now, that being said, there are War Scroll battalions for some of the battle tomes that did not get updated yet. Remember, we saw an update for the Stormcast, we saw an update for the Khorne, but we did not see an update for Seraphon, we did not see an update for the Iron Jaws, or the Fire Slayers. So it doesn't look like they're going to get an update, a separate book update. They have their update now in here, and that's in the form of their own allegiance abilities and their own War Scroll battalions. I think there's 2 for each one, if I'm not mistaken, in here. Now, that being said, also, anything that wasn't these right here, the Beast Claw Raiders, your Sylvaneth, your Bone Splitters, actually, I don't think the Iron Jaws count, because these are all ones that came out post General's Handbook of last year, and the Caradon Overlords, of course, but we already got the cards for them. Those all have their allegiance abilities you know, their battalions and everything like that. So you're not going to get those rules in here. However, you will get overarching rules in here for like destruction and things like order, you know, so your Grand Alliance rules are going to be in here and updated, but not those specific battle tomes that were already updated to the new format post Generals Handbook a year ago. So we'll say Generals Handbook 2016. There's also a single War Scroll update in here for the Canadron Dwarfs, or that updates their Devastator type models, the ones with all the different guns, to a singular profile that matches what comes in the box, I think it is, which is really interesting because, you know, a lot of people wanted to take them a certain ways, but apparently you cannot do that. So that's the case. And then there's a lot of stuff to talk about right here in this match play section. So let's jump right into it. So first off, we got the Time of War, which is open play. And open play is just, yo, bring your stuff, whatever. I guess the closest thing to call it would be Unbound from the old 8th edition or whatever for 40K, right? Or the old 7th edition for 40K. Now, that's where the open war cards come in. So you can set up this campaign or a tournament based just using these cards in a deck, and they kind of go over that where you would get a twist card, which is a benefit, sort of. And then each player would get that, and if you're in the lower brackets at the, you know, after the cut or whatever, you would get extra twist cards. But there's a map and objective and a twist, and that's kind of the ladder system, and you can play it as a tournament if you have different decks for each table, which I thought was pretty neat. So again, that's kind of like the Maelstrom port over from both 7th edition and 8th edition 40K using tactical objectives. But what I thought was really neat, I was like, well, why don't you just use these in conjunction with, like, if you want to play battle points, you want to play pitch battle or whatever, just use these and just pick your mission or whatever. You know, that might be kind of cool too. Just, you never have the same one twice. You can, instead of taking a triumph, you could take an extra twist or something like that if you're under points, and then that way, so you're always keeping it fresh. I just thought it'd be pretty neat. Just something that kind of, you know, just something different, something to keep it fresh. So that's the open war format, and there's a lot more stuff in here, and there's teams. Oh, and then there's multiplayer in here too, which I thought was really neat. So there's teams in here, and then there's specific missions for all of that. Now, all of this is different than what came in the old Generals Handbook there, okay? Which is basically a harken back to 8th edition fantasy Triumph and Treachery box set, which introduced the multiplayer mechanic way back. I want to say back forever ago, but really it's only been like 5 years or so, right? I feel like that's the case. So there's the Triumph and Treachery and the bribes and how to do all that and center ground. So you can play it that way if you want. Map campaigns, etc., etc. Let's jump to, let's just go a little bit in here to the narrative play stuff. If you want to play narrative, you can. There's all sorts of rules in here on all of that. Again, we're not going to cover a lot of that, but there are specific battle plans, planned siege warfare, all different types of battle. Now, the stuff that I think a lot of people are checking out this video for are the pitch battle rules, which is kind of what points values and things like that, what was introduced in the Generals Handbook about a year ago. So again, you've got Vanguard, Battle Host, War Host. They have specific types that match up to points. Again, you have restrictions on how many leaders, battle lines, artillery, behemoths, other units, and allies you can have. Now, allies are new, and we'll get to that here in a second, how those work. And there's also a specific type of table that you play on, which is right here, depending on which one of those games you play. So check that out. Now, when we get over to the pitch battle section, it talks about War Scroll battalions, reinforcement points, your army roster, allies. It gets into allies. So basically, long story short, is you can still have an allegiance, faction allegiance. Basically, all the things in your army are a specific keyword, but then there's other keywords that count as that allegiance as well, and it will show you in the points section, which is a couple pages back here. And so that will allow you to kind of mix and match things, and that's why they came out with all those allies bundles and things like that. So you can splash, you know, wizards or giants into different armies here and there, even though they didn't have the same keyword in the past. And that was an issue, like people, you know, orc players wanted to take giants, but they couldn't because they didn't have the giant keyword. It was like, well, how the heck do I use these gargants? You know what I mean? All right, so allies, that kind of breaks it down, and they're specific. You have specific points, like in a 1,000-point game, you can have 200 points of allies total. A battle host, you can have 4. So that's a respectable type number, and that's why they try to keep those boxes to about a 400 point or 300 or to 350-ish kind of point value, and they are actually listed on the back of the box. If you didn't check our video there, they're going to show you how many points there are, and then the breakdown for each thing inside of it. And there's a reason for that, because right there, you just saw for most games, 2,000 points. These boxes are geared towards giving you a 1,500, having you take a 1,500 point game or army, and then you can stack it up towards 2K perhaps, and making it easy. Now there's 2 more rules of 1 that they added. There used to be 3, now there's 5. Cannot re-roll or modify the start of each battle round. That determines who chooses the player that takes the first turn. And no artifact or power or similar item can be taken more than once in the same army. An army cannot include, for instance, 2 obsidian blades. Then we get into battlefield roles, which is all should be familiar to everybody. We just talked about that right here. The leaders, battle lines, artillery, behemoths, and other units and allies. Now some of these have changed. I'm not going to have the exact breakdown for you in the points section, but sometimes points have changed. Sometimes minimum unit size have changed. Sometimes what the battlefield role is of a unit has changed, and they are notated that there has been a change, but there isn't what the change is. So it's up to you to kind of bust out your old Generals Handbook, or whatever you want to do, use your app phone, something like that, and check that out. Battlefield wise, we talked about that. Monsters to cover still do not get cover. Battle plans, so there's 6 new missions for the pitched battle. Gone is like border wars and things like that we saw in the past. Now there's these 6 right here, which are going to be in the following pages. Triumphs are still here, 1 to 6, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. You can roll randomly, or my suggestion is maybe just take one of the scheme thingies out of here, or the twists out of here, or the ruses even. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can do with a little imagination on this open war deck right here, which I thought was pretty cool. And that is the majority of the big stuff. So there's your pitch, there's your battle plans. We'll just flip through those briefly. If you really want to take a look, just pause the video. And then to the pitch battle profile. So this is where a lot of things change. So under strength units, first off, you sometimes you find that you do not have enough models to field a unit at full strength. In this case, you must still pay the full cost for the unit. So like if you only have 3 Liberators and you're paying for 5, you still pay 5. A little different from 8th edition 40K, of course. Then we've got the massive regiments, where you have the slash points values and such, how they are listed. Factions and allies. Now this is something we talked about here. If you're taking 2K, that you can have 400 points of allies. Well, for instance, what allies are you eligible to take? Well, it's going to say right here underneath your faction, if you take these, they some factions include a list of allies. You can spend some of the points for an army on the faction's allies without changing the army's allegiance, which allows you to still have your legion's abilities, your cool war scrolls, perhaps, or your cool equipments, and perhaps in some cases some magical abilities as well, specific to your particular faction. Now, they go to great pains to say August 2017, that these are the most current profiles, pitch battle profiles for all of these models, and they update them with the little star or son of Sigmar, what is that, Gur or something, I forget. But that little icon right there notes that something has changed. Now it could be the unit size, it could be the points, it could be the battlefield role, or it could be any notation here or restriction on the particular unit. So that's kind of something to keep in mind when you're looking through all of this. And again, there's a lot more in here, a lot more chaos, or a lot more profiles and things, because we've added stuff. Then there's the War Scroll update, the Thunderers unit. I think what that was is they have to take one of each gun. Can be instead armed with Dex Sweeper, 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. So yeah, it looks like they have to be equipped exactly how they come in the unit box, because you only get one of each in the unit box, which is really interesting, because if they did that with 40K, you wouldn't be able to field all the weapons for like a Space Marine Devastator squad or something like that. Then it gets into the allegiance areas, and you're going to have battle traits, you're going to have your command traits, you're going to have your artifacts of power, just like we've seen in the past. Here's a listing of all of the allegiance that are updated in here. Again, things like Bone Splitters, things like Beast Claws, Sylvaneth. Any of the stuff that have an updated book aren't going to get it, but you are going to get the overall like order and chaos and things like that. So that's all in here. They also talk about mounts because there are some special mounts in here as well, which we saw. So here's your allegiance abilities for order. Now, we know, going from the last book, or the last Generals Handbook, that there was something very similar, right? You could take order. Let's find those real quick for you. You could take allegiance abilities order. You could take command traits, strategic genius, inspiring, reckless, tenacious, legendary fighter, master of defense. So those look very similar to what we've seen in the past. Quicksilver potion, obstinate blade, relic blade, phoenix stone, talisman of burning light, horrorfast. Those are all the same name. Now I'm not gonna dig deep and see if they're the same exact thing right there. Darkling Covenants. Who the heck are these guys? These swords of dark shrouds. Oh, they're elves. Oh, okay. So then it kind of deviates from there and gets into new specialized, the disposed. Oh, these are the dwarfs. Okay. Free peoples. So they've updated all of the stragglers that were in the General's Handbook that have not gotten a book of their own. And then the Fire Slayers, of course, have a battle tome, but now they're getting the full treatment here with 2 battalions. Seraphon as well have a battle tome, so they're getting the full treatment with Artifacts Command and also 2 fantastic battalions. Then Wanderers, those are your Wood Elves, and etc, etc, etc. It goes through all of the factions that needed the update. 2, the Iron Jaws, which is going to have 2 War Scroll battalions in here and their own artifacts and command traits. Now, interestingly enough, there is a Clan Pestilence, right? There is a Clan Pestilence battalion or battle tome, but they did not give them any battalions. So that's interesting. I wonder if they have a updated book on the way, because they didn't seem to do much in the way of updating them except for giving them command traits and artifacts. So I'm wondering if they have a full book on the way themselves right there. So that's it. That's our quick and dirty run through of the new General's Handbook for 2017, comparing it to the old handbook as much as we could. Obviously, there's going to be some points changes, some battlefield role changes, some min-max changes, some notation changes, restrictions all over the place. We will try to circle back and do a more comprehensive breakdown, but again, it might not be in the cards with the amount of events and things we have going on next week here in the studio, unfortunately. So lots of cool accessories as well. Like we said, the new battalion War Scroll cards sets, and of course the Open War cards as well, along with all the new ally special bundle boxes that came out this week as well. So that's it for this one. Thanks for checking out our first look, review, and semi-breakdown of the new General's Handbook for 2017. Now, if you like our video features here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to us and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on our videos, and head on over to longwar.net. That's the home of the 8th edition and Age of Sigmar battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.